So the second week of League Two has now been played. So let's have a run through of the fixtures that we have seen. So starting with the early games, Salford City against Chesterfield. Now Salford have not had the best of starts to this season. Playoff, missed out on the playoff right at the end of the last season in the final. Did not turn up in that. Lost 3-0 and then not had the best of starts to the season. It has to be said. Going into this season as the favourites, so much expectation on them. A strong transfer window. Looking like this might finally be their year, but it's not been the best of starts. 2 defeats on the bounce to start the season, and a 1-0 loss at home here to Chesterfield. Chesterfield, they can be decent defensively, and if they get themselves 1-0 away up from home, they can be tricky because they've got a good away record. But of course, Salford could see 2 minutes in at home and then to not be able to get themselves back into it the whole game, they'll be frustrated. Something is clearly not going right at the moment. It is worth noting that it is very early days. This could all turn around, but I would wonder at this stage: is it will they be regretting sacking Carl Robson now? Because I thought that was a mistake at the time. I thought that was a really weird, really bad decision at the time. But I just thought they've brought in a manager that has got promoted before with Crawley, and they've brought in so much quality into the team. Just thought it would still probably work out for them anyway, but. Maybe they will live to regret this. And Chesterfield, they needed to respond themselves after 1-0 loss at home to Fleetwood last week. And this time around we see a 1-0 win away from home. So, they're certainly good at keeping the score down. They're certainly looking good defensively. We'll see how they get on next week. I think the home form does need to improve a bit. But away, that's been the case over the last sort of season or so. But I think, that was a strong performance yesterday for sure. We've seen 0-0 between Walsall and Grimsby. Now, both of these two sides have a lot of quality. Both of these two started very well last week. They've both teams that have had playoff defeats in recent seasons. So I think particularly Grimsby, with the way how well they can run over recent years, how good of a team they've now built over the years, over recent years to get to this position nowadays. So unlucky to miss out last season. I think this time round I've got a very good feeling about Grimsby. I think they've got a very good chance of going up. And I think last week, they got the win. This time when they get a draw away, Walsall, not a bad start whatsoever. And this game yesterday Walsall coming off the back of a win as well. So if both of these two, 4 points in their opening two, I don't think either side will be too disappointed about this draw at all. Not a bad point for either side really. Maybe we'd have expected some goals in this game, but at this stage in the season, not too bad for either of those sides, in my opinion. Now we're seeing 8-goal thriller between Bristol Rovers and Newport County. Now there seems to be a lot of goals in the games these teams are involved in. Newport, we know last week they surprised. They've really turned up on the opening day. So much concerns for them going into this season, but they were so good against Rochdale in massive win. They so impressive. They seem to not have an issue scoring goals. Will they have some issues defensively though? Because conceded 5 goals this year. The 3-0 win against Rochdale on the opening day, and then going away to Bristol Rovers, it looked like they might continue it, taking the lead within the first minute. But then final kick pretty much in the first half, stoppage time in the first half. That's when Bristol Rovers equalised, and this is the thing. They seem to. It was funny how there was a goal literally at both ends of the half, but the second half, we see Bristol Rovers do start to take charge. They get one, and then get a second in quite quick succession after the 2-1, an own goal, that one being. But they pull one back, Newport, and it's at this point, it's still really, really hanging with the balance, 3-2. And make it 4-2, and then get another one back. Newport in the last minute. It's a really, really competitive game the whole way through, and Bristol Rovers eventually in the 99th minute secured a victory with a 5-3 win. Now, Bristol Rovers defensively, I think, need to tighten up a bit, but they're having no issues scoring goals. Last week against York, I thought it was unfortunate because I thought they'd shown a lot of quality going forward, but then gifted chances away and gifted them. Let York, when they got themselves back into the game last week against York, Bristol Rovers, then threw it away again and ended up losing 3-2, and they was in a winning position at one point in that game as well. So it was a bit disappointing on the opening day, but they responded so well yesterday, and they look so good going forward. They look like they've got so much quality, and they look like they're really, really going to score a lot of goals this season. I just do think that they will need to tighten up at the back a bit, seeing as they've already conceded 6 goals from the opening 2. That will have to change. But I certainly think there's a lot of potential in this side for sure. Now, Port Vale last weekend had a disappointing start against Oldham, but looks set to respond against Tranmere, who had a really good start last weekend. They get a penalty 18 minutes and the penalty goes in, so it's a good start for Port Vale at home here, 18 minutes into the game, get themselves the lead at home, and they're, much better, seeing as they had the disappointing result last weekend and needed some sort of response. For a lot of the game, they're in the lead, and they're trying to see it out, but they're not able to kill it off. And Tranmere, they're not gonna didn't give up. They worked their way back into it, and 72 minutes in, Tom Ince, one of the most experienced players in this division, very good player for Tranmere to have on their hands. He's the one who gets the goal, the equaliser, which ultimately settled a 1-1 draw in the end, which again, I think Port Vale, they led for a while, so I think they'll be frustrated with the fact they couldn't get the job done at home. But I think Tranmere will be very, very happy with what they've taken from their opening 2 games. 3 points at home and a point away from home. Not too bad at all. Port Vale, though, after coming down, sometimes this can happen. Teams don't get up to speed straight away or don't get up to speed at all in some cases. So I think they'll be keen to get a win soon, just to I think your next game could be important for them. I think if you have a bad start to the season, it can catch up with you if you're one of the teams that's just come down. So we had Crewe against Northampton. Now Crewe last weekend started with a 1-0 win at Crawley in a crazy game, sending off for them and 2 sending offs for Crawley. A little bit less chaotic, this 1-0 win at home to Northampton, but still a good win. Another clean sheet. 2 clean sheets, 2 1-0 wins. Very, very good from Crewe so far. Look very organised. As for Northampton, the 0-0 against Swindon and no goal in this game. No goals from the opening 2. I think that's a bit of a worry. Are they going to... They might be good at keeping the score down, but are they going to score enough goals? That could be a real concern throughout the season, potentially, if the opening games are anything to go by. But it was a game that was tight, but it was ultimately a 53-minute winner for Crewe, which is what seeded them over the line in this game in the end. And a strong home performance, clean sheet, 2 clean sheets, 2 1-0 wins, 1 away from home, 1 at home. It's a very, very good start for Crewe. We see Colchester. They last weekend they drew. They did a away draw at Accrington Stanley, a 2-2, and one of my concerns with Colchester, I thought they looked very good in their game against Southampton that you saw in the Cup before the season started. But I did worry if they'd score enough goals. But from the opening 2 games, that looks like that might not be an issue. Goal scoring might not be the issue that I thought it could be. Maybe Colchester could be on for a very good season. They have seen a very mixed set of predictions. A lot of people predicted to do really well. Some people were expecting the promotion push. It's just not quite materialised. They just fallen short last season over recent years, but some people are less convinced, thinking maybe it could be mid-table again. But the opening 2, they've certainly got some quality going forward. Oldham take the lead there, though, 20 minutes in, and Oldham looking to add to their very good start. They beat Port Vale at home last time out, but it was in the stoppage time, sending off for Gus Scott Morris, which really hurt the chances going into the second half, going down to 10 men after going 1-0 up. Colchester, I think from that point, being the home side, really, really sort of took the initiative and really kind of went for the kill in the second half. And they do eventually get the equaliser 63 minutes in. It takes them a while. They have to really work for the goal. Looked like a really resilient defensive display from Oldham. But 94 minutes in, own goal eventually gets them the win, Colchester, which they very much needed. I think they very much needed to get that win in the second half. They had to turn it around, I think, with playing against 10 men. I think there was real incentive on them to do that, and they did do that. So from the open 2, 4 points, not too bad for them. And as for Oldham, I do think they hung on for a while with 10 men yesterday after a strong home performance in the first game. I wouldn't be too worried from their point of view as well. I think the sending off was what killed them yesterday. We saw who else do we have next? Who should we do next? Let's have a look. Bear with me. Okay, so we also had another 0-0 in this game. Fleetwood against Gillingham. Now, Fleetwood in their opening game won 1-0 away at Chesterfield. Now, I'm impressed with this. Another clean sheet. Defensively, look very organised. Thing with Fleetwood, 4 points from the opening 2. We need to see this consistency continue, because Fleetwood last season was had some very good runs and some very bad runs. They were just an inconsistent side over the last couple of seasons. I think the next game is very big. I think that if they can get a good run together, they could be looking good, because there's certainly a lot going for this team. They're certainly organised. They're certainly hard to beat. It looked like for a 0-0 though, this looked like quite an eventful 0-0. Gillingham, of course, had an awful first game, 3-0 loss at home to Walsall. But, yesterday certainly looked, did not gift away the same opportunities, more organised. I think, for a 0-0, this is certainly an eventful game by the looks of it. It looks like there was a lot of goal side action. Fleetwood certainly having more of the ball. They were the team certainly trying to force the issue a bit more, creating a lot of chances. But when Gillingham did get the ball, they looked like they was quite effective with it, creating decent chances of their own. A few bookings in this game as well, quite a lot of challenges going in. So quite a fairly eventful game for a 0-0, just lacked the goals. But a 0-0 there was what both sides had to settle for in the end. Exeter, last week they really did not have a lot to offer at Grimsby. Grimsby got themselves in the lead, and to be honest, it was lucky it was only 1-0. I thought Exeter's keeper was fantastic, kept them in the game really. But yesterday, they keep a clean sheet, which I think, looks good in the goalkeeper again. They get themselves 1-0 up at home to Accrington Stanley 2 minutes in. Then an own goal 13 minutes in, establishes a really strong lead straight away. And from that point, they had enough to stay organised and keep Accrington out for the rest of the game. Now, the good start there for Exeter. They really went for the kill early on and was able to pretty much win the game before the 20th minute. And then to have not given anything away after that, sometimes, teams go 2-0 up, don't know what to do with themselves. Wasn't the case for Exeter yesterday. They was able to just stay organised, not gift anything stupid away, not not let them back into the game. And disappointing for Accrington, no win from the first two. From Exeter, they've had a home win and the away loss, so I don't think they'll be too frustrated with that. And I think overall defensively, there's some good signs. So we'll see if they can build on this in the coming weeks. So Rochdale, again, they would have been keen to respond. Really, really bad first game at Newport. Not a lot of people would have expected them to collapse like that. But coming into this game at home to Crawley, again, it felt like a real opportunity because Crawley, just to be honest, weren't great last weekend. They're one of the teams that a lot of people were over all this season as well. And, they only survived on the final day last season. Last time out, they went down to 9 men. There's a lot of worrying signs. They're one of these teams that chop and change managers quite regularly as well. There's not much stability, to be perfectly honest. Whereas Rochdale have come up and despite losing the manager and the fantastic goalkeeper they had on loan last season, it still certainly looks like coming into this League Two season, there's a very, very strong, because usually when teams come up from the National League, they have real momentum, they do really well, but quite often they do also take a while to get going. Barnet, I remember in their first couple of games last season, made some horrendous mistakes, ended up losing. But this, for Rochdale, maybe that will be the same, but the early signs are not great. They did not look particularly brilliant again yesterday. Crawley, they took the lead there in the first half, 8 minutes in. Again, a poor start, again, giving another goal away. They eventually do find the goal. It takes them a while, but they do improve Rochdale. They get an equaliser 54 minutes in. But then, they throw it away again, give the penalty away. And they, in the around the 70th minute mark, concede the penalty. And from there, Crawley are able to see the game out because they can be very good defensively. We saw that last week. They hung on for a while with 10 men, Crawley. That is probably their best, one of their strengths. I think defensively, they certainly look like they can dig deep at times. So they're disappointing for Rochdale. 2 losses from the first 2. And one of the worst performing sides so far. It's very, very early days. I would have a lot of faith in them personally to turn it around, but some worrying signs there. They will not be happy with how this has started this season, it's got to be said. Now, York would have been keen to add to their fantastic win against Bristol Rovers last time out. But Rotherham would also be keen to respond. They had a bad start, losing the first game at Cheltenham, but they get themselves 1-0 up at home 20 minutes in. York find the way back into the game 40 minutes in, though, so it's finally balanced going into the second half of it being at 1-1. With Rotherham, so many new players there, it might take time to gel. I think maybe he was expecting York to maybe really take the initiative and really push on and get the win after the equaliser. It didn't quite happen in the end, though. And I think, to be honest, at this stage, a draw is not a terrible result for either side. We don't know too much about how these two are going to look in the actual season. It's hard to judge teams at this point, I feel. But I don't think either side will be too disappointed with that draw at all at this stage of the season. Shrewsbury. We're at home to Barnet now. Shrewsbury last time out, they have another team that has not had a good start. 2 losses from the first 2, worrying signs there. They just don't seem to score enough goals. They do seem like they could be one of the teams that a lot of people worry for this season. I think off the field problems there as well. Barnet took the lead. Barnet looked really strong. 2 big wins so far. Convincing in front of goal. Take the lead 13 minutes in, but they do equalise just before half time, Shrewsbury. So going into the second half, if they could have held on for a draw would have been a good result. It looked like they was going to do that, but within the held on to 83 minutes. But once Barnet got one, then the space was there for them to push on and get the second quite quickly and kill the game off, or get the third, but establish a 2-goal lead. And from there, they was always going to get themselves over the line. So very, very good from Barnet, again looking a very, very strong side this season. And I do have to say, I think Shrewsbury are one of the teams that I think you would worry for at this stage, to be perfectly honest. Swindon, we know they've got certain issues in Holloway's future's uncertain. Cheltenham started wondered how they'd get on yesterday. They had a 0-0 in the first game. Cheltenham started very well. But Swindon was able to get the win at home to Cheltenham. They scored 17 minutes in, then 50 minutes in. 55 minutes in, and then from there, 2-0 up. Very, very comfortable, very, very convincing. They do, though, concede in the 85th minute. They really, really pushed to try and get themselves back into the game. Cheltenham, they didn't give up, but ultimately Swindon had just about enough to see the game out, and they'll be happy with that. They'll be relieved we've got that win in that first home game to just ease a little bit of the pressure and a little bit of the questions that are being asked of them. And with all the noise around in Holloway, will he stay, will he go, is he happy with his owners, he wanted more money to spend and all of this sort of stuff, but that I've been hearing. But they look like they looked decent yesterday. They looked decent. So that's how it concludes after the first 2 weeks. I mean, it's hard to tell a lot about many sides at the moment. There's teams that I have been particularly impressed with. Teams like Barnet, I think, look very good. I have to say, Crewe have looked very good. I think teams like Walsall, Tranmere been organised. Grimsby, same as there. So there's been some good performers. The teams that, again, same teams that have been really poor. I mean, Salford, really, really poor start from them. Not sure what's going on there. Shrewsbury and Rochdale as well, I have to say, have not got off to the best of starts at all. But we'll see how everyone gets on in week 3. Week 3 is a big one. I think there'll be a lot of teams keen to get their first win in that third week of the season.